Hello, everybody. This is Calic Dad, episode number 356, Financial Market Analysis. And so I've said before that when people take high risk, they usually buy equities in the market in terms of stocks. And then stocks, those are the things that are actually give you traditionally the highest rate of return year over year over year, followed by the bond market, followed by the cash and muni markets, followed by precious metals for the most part. And usually when times get really hard, you go in that direction. Like you start abandoning stocks, you start abandoning bonds, you start to go to the cash market. Cash is king. And when you no longer trust cash, you end up going over to the metal markets. And so I said, watch the metal markets, because what the United States is doing right now, it's printing hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars. They just had a $2 trillion bailout plan to small business associations and larger banks as well. Today they passed a $19 billion farmer rancher package that's going to hand out more money to the farmers and the ranchers and buy up their livestock. And essentially, you have more money chasing less goods because the entire world economy collapsed. And so, what you get nervous about whenever you have more money chasing less goods, you get worried about inflation, but particularly hyperinflation. And when we talk about hyperinflation, we want to talk about Weimar Germany, because if really bad hyperinflation will make everybody completely poor, unless of course you have something that has intrinsic value, such as farmland or metals, precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, or something like that. And so anyway, so watch what's happening. The stock market keeps going up. Why is that? Well, the stock market's going up because the Federal Reserve is printing money and buying stocks. The bond market is somewhat holding strong, but it's going to collapse. And why is that? Because the Federal Reserve is buying up all sorts of muni assets and whatever else, and the bonds are being bought up by the Federal Reserve, even though the prices don't deserve to go up. They are holding strong and steady for the most part. Well, anyway, everybody's getting out of cash right now, and so I've heard stories, anecdotal stories, that in Seattle, one of the priciest housing markets in America, that people are going in and buying houses cash over asking price, which, think about that one. What kind of trade is that? Who the heck in the worst economic downturn in the history of the world would buy up real estate cash on its face? And I think this is an inflation bet, and it's one like I've never seen before, and I don't think I've ever heard before, that people believe the dollar is just going to collapse, and they can't get their hands on physical gold right now because everybody's been buying physical gold on paper contracts. And when you have physical gold on paper contracts, everybody asks for the gold to be delivered. Problem is, it's not deliverable, and therefore the gold markets and the physical delivery markets and the paper market's just decoupled for the first time since I think 1933 or something like that, which means people want their gold, they just can't get it. And so the really affluent, the really rich people are going to buy up other hard assets, which are apartments and houses in cities that are probably not going to lose their value. There was a Peruvian family that just bought up 8 apartments worth $27 million in New York City, even though new home starts and housing sentiment is lower than it was at the bottom of the 2008 housing crash, which means that people don't care. They don't care that housing is going to collapse, but what they do care is they want something that they'll be able to say, hey, this is mine, because the fact of the matter is stocks can go to zero, bonds can go to zero. If there's a war between countries, then bonds will go to zero and stocks will be plummeted and get destroyed. And so therefore you want to have real assets. And cash, in terms of hyperinflation, nobody wants to hold that either. And so therefore the metal markets have been going up. I mean, gold's got a solid 18 or a 17 handle now. It's like 1707 close the day. Silver's up to a 15 handle, but that's going higher. I don't know how much higher. If you guys can get your hands on any precious metals, I would consider buying silver if you can't buy gold, because it's too dang pricey and it might not be available for delivery. So silver is, it would take more than 100 ounces of silver to buy an ounce of gold right now, which is traditionally an anomaly. And so therefore silver is very cheap and gold is very expensive. But all that being said, is what happened to the oil markets compared to gold. Oil went down to negative $37 a barrel today, which is unheard of, meaning nobody's buying the future contracts of the oil that needs to be delivered somewhere. And so oil is just going to hang out there and rot. This is a major problem, by the way. And so in terms of when gold's priced in oil, gold has gone through the roof. It's to the moon. Gold held its value compared to every other asset class, and it's been going up gradually over time. But my suspicion is this: once the paper contracts finally, people realize they're not going to be paid their own gold back, and then people start trying to get their hands on gold from the central banks, the gold market's going to go through the moon. That's my guess. But just keep watching the metal markets. That will tell you the world is in a massive amount of trouble. And so just watch the metal markets. And if you have a ton of money and you want to buy a nice apartment in a city somewhere, go ahead and do it. I wouldn't recommend it because it might get destroyed or something like that. And but where would you put your money? I don't even know because farmland's not for sale right now. And well, anyway, I guess that's all. That's me thinking. Maybe you could buy expensive art or diamonds or something like that, but that's probably not smart either. You could buy jewelry, I suppose. Well, anyway, this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the Daily Rosary. God bless you all.